Most people don't think about thought. Most people don't think about consciousness. They just think they have it every morning. They never even question what is thinking. They don't question, here we are trying to affect the world and we don't even know what thought is. Well, what is the anatomy of the ego? You can tell that a body is going to be defined by a torso, a head, 2 arms and 2 legs, and a hand is defined by a palm and 5 fingers, or a species of butterfly. Everything has an anatomy, but consciousness has no anatomy. Of course it does. But what is that anatomy? What are the divisions of consciousness? What is ego? My reading of it is that ego is a form of consciousness that was created out of trauma. But it was created out of trauma, which means it's terribly weak. It's terribly fragmented. It has incredible capacities. It has unbelievable focus and strength in many ways, but it's also at its root very, very weak and very shaky. And therefore, a shaky edifice, anything that has inherent impotency, can be controlled. Man is itching psychologically for these stabilizers. That's what Dali was talking about, that man needs psychological braces. I want to take those braces off. You're not going to talk about any kind of social or constitutional freedom. You're not going to hammer it into existence legally or constitutionally if it's not inside a man internally.
Yeah.
But either way, it is a selfless entity that deals in sorcery. The person who's of self would never ever deal in it because it deals in the manipulation of other people. And if you're a self, how would you want to do that? Didn't Socrates say to harm another is to harm oneself? I can call these people, these politicians and leaders and religious potentates, sorcerers with absolute accuracy because they're defined by acts of terrorism on the earth. Because they know what we don't know. They know what I'm saying right now, and that is the human ego is traumatized. Its existence is born from trauma, from a primal trauma. What better way, then, to make sure that there's never any peace or ease, you see, or luxury for the ego, to perpetually, every 10 years or so, repeatedly traumatize it again. Not every 10 years, it's happening every day. The news is enough to traumatize most people's psyche. When I talk about ego being split, or ego being divided or fragmentary, one can simplify it by just thinking that the mind divided into 2 halves. Meaning the mind is inherently fractured. Just like you take a piece of quartz crystal and you smash it. And it's fractured. There's nothing more, you can never join those pieces together again. All that can now happen is there's some dialogue, between those 2 aspects of the self. So man is in conflict within himself. Because you're not what they call inner directed. You're outer directed. You have no psychic sovereignty. So the approval of others, be it even one other, or the approval of the many, now matters extraordinarily. Your whole life and your whole sanity rests or falls on the approval of other people. And since the reality is that you don't get approval from most people, that just happens to be a physical fact, well then, of course, now the neurosis begins. Because now you're so dependent on the approval of others, what happens if you don't get it? Well, then you end up like most people are walking around today.
You fall apart.
You fall apart.
Yeah.
Whereas Ayn Rand, one of my mentors, would have responded to that by going, if you are a person who's already of merit, why do you need to be decorated? If you have done something for another that is what you wanted to do, and truly was of value in itself, you don't need their approval or their thanks. Get sorry out of your vocabulary, get thank you out of your vocabulary. So when you see a sorcerer, you see an addict of power. That's it. Obsessed and addicted to power. Power is where love should be. And they want to infect you with their infection. As now the whole world is becoming infected. Hitler's no good without a gang. Bush is no good without an audience. He has to have, like psychopathic people around him, first of all, to hide his own psychopathy. They're the tall grass in which the tiger hides, you see. And believe me, if you can have a whole culture of psychopaths, right, all the better.
Perfect.
Right?
Yeah.
The orcs, have all the orcs. Then you can be as faceless as you feel like. I even go to the point of saying that we're not thinking with the mind, we're thinking for the mind. See, the mind is all about the collective. So even the ego you have is oriented or magnetized more to collectivism than it is to individualism. Individualism must be fought for. Sovereignty or hygiene must be gained. It doesn't come to you naturally. What comes to you naturally is dirt. If you leave fruit on the table, naturally it'll rot. If you leave your home, right, dust will gather. See, the natural function is for decrepitude and for dust and toxins to gather. Your effort is to get the gloves on, the detergent out, and the brushes and to clean. That takes effort. This is a work that the human race couldn't care less about anymore. So the toxins are building up. I have no problem seeing all the harangue and the stress and the frustration and the sort of I look at that as very positive, because you shouldn't get comfortable with a lie.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to see people burned out, stressed out, complaining, frustrated. I want to see those so-called darker emotions operating, because I know what those darker emotions are. Those darker emotions that you hate, you think is called hate and anger and loneliness, you see in fear. Those are just terms. Those are, again, words that you have blocked your higher self. The higher self is working overtime to wake you up from a delirium. You're caught within the roles. You're caught within that scaffolding. You're caught in the cage of the inauthentic life. You are miles away from your dharma and your inauthentic existence. You've had everyone from your parents to your peers to your fellow friends, so-called friends, teachers, politicians, and priests, and the whole world erase your individuality. So of course you're going to be screaming inside. I don't want to medicate you. I don't want to create a new age cult where I can liberate you from your angst. I want to introduce you to your angst. That angst, right? What did Nietzsche say? Beware casting out your demons. You may be casting out the best part of you.
Yeah.
People think he was satanic, crazy. No, he was a philosopher who understood. Let's hope that those dark forces that are banging on your door get in. You may be so personally traumatized that when they come in you die from shock. Well, too bad. That's the price we're willing to pay. But they're not killing you. You're killing yourself in fear of a shadow you don't understand. See, the unconscious always shines back the face that looks into it. That's why the greatest symbol of the unconscious is the mirror.
Yeah.
Because the face that the unconscious takes on, or they say more specifically, the face that the content of the unconscious takes on when it comes into consciousness, is predicated upon your own ego defenses. Meaning that what you look into is like this atomic level thing. The face that looks into the unconscious is reflected back. So if the face that's looking into the unconscious is fearful, pathological, toxic, scared, etc., content will take on that shape. People are already in an escape from the real. So people go, we're providing escapes. The media provides escapes. No, you're already in escape. Your whole life is an escape from the real. So your medicating yourself and finding escapes and finding deviations from this horrible cage that you're in is also natural. Of course you would want to escape from it. All I'm saying to people is to escape from it totally. Because remember, part of the sorcery, this is the theme of our show here, is that the sorcery is to keep you within the cage, but giving you the illusion that it's okay to be in the cage because we'll offer you a bunch of false freedoms. What would you call it? The illusion of freedom.
Yeah.
So, and they'll lay on anything, as long as the door remains locked, and you don't really ask for the key.